Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On Blues podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and your number one source for daily Blues content. I'm Josh Hyman, and we've got a busy solo episode for you guys to talk about. Blues take on the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight, big powerhouse in the league, arguably reigning Stanley Cup champions, and the start of a 4-game stretch against the Lightning, Panthers. It's going to be a tough 4-game stretch for the Blues. Tyler Bozak's in COVID protocol. They're running 11 forwards again. There's so much to get to. But first, I want to tell you guys about a brand new sponsor, and that is Omaha Steaks. I love nothing more than a good steak, and the holidays are right around the corner. Finding the perfect gift is tricky. Omaha Steaks makes it easy to send friends and family an unforgettable gift, guaranteed to be loved. Go to omahasteaks.com and enter NHL into the search bar to order the perfect gift package. All right. Lots to get to on today's episode. The St. Louis Blues are taking on the defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Going to be a can't-miss game for sure. Blues are facing a familiar face in Brian Elliott between the pipes, which is always exciting. Hopefully, knowledge of playing against him in the past and practice will help some of those guys that have been on the team for a while. But Tampa is a really scary team, really good team. Blues have always played them well, though. And it's going to be, these next 4 games are going to be very telling for what the St. Louis Blues are capable of doing this season, especially with a depleted roster, with Tyler Bozak now going into COVID protocol and Braden still dealing with his injury, even though he's making a return to the lineup. He's not fully healthy. We don't know what he's dealing with. He basically said he wanted to keep that under wraps, so opposing teams won't be chopping at him or whatever, trying to make the injury any worse. But yeah, the Blues definitely have the work cut out for them tonight. Logan Brown getting the call up from the AHL, Dakota Joshua getting back into the lineup as well. The lines are Braden Shen, Ryan O'Reilly, Jordan Kyrou, Pavel Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, Vladimir Tarasenko, Brandon Saad, Oscar Sundqvist, and Ivan Barbashev. And then the fourth line is Dakota Joshua and Logan Brown. Defensive pairings, you got Torrey Krug, Justin Falk, Nico Mikkola, who's looked spectacular, by the way, and Colton Parayko, Scott Perunovich, and Robert Bortuzzo, with the 7th defenseman being Marco Scandella, and then Jordan Bennington will match up in between the pipes against Brian Elliott. Greg Kane says in chat, can this team catch a break? And the answer is absolutely not. Blues have been down forwards lately. They literally only have 11 healthy forwards on their roster, and due to COVID rules and cap rules, they can't call anyone up anymore. So they're literally forced to play with 11 forwards. So hopefully they all stay healthy tonight, because we saw how 10 forwards can be disastrous, but we also saw how 10 forwards can work out in their favor. So Blues are doing a good job of battling through this adversity right now, but it's going to be a huge test tonight. Tampa Bay Lightning are a powerhouse, even without Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov, who they're missing tonight, and with Vasilevsky, as the backup. It's still not going to be an easy task for the St. Louis Blues whatsoever. A lot of guys are going to need to step up. Bozak is one of those guys that might not seem like the biggest loss on paper, but those are a lot of minutes that he eats up, a lot of just reliable hockey that he plays. And, not having him there is just another hole that the Blues are going to need to fill from the other guys. And one name that really sticks out to me in terms of who kind of needs to step up is Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly is definitely having his worst season with the St. Louis Blues so far. Obviously, small sample size. He had COVID, and he definitely talked about how the effects of COVID were lingering and causing some fatigue. So, I'm not exactly here to jump down his throat and say he needs to play better, because it's understandable that he isn't producing as much. But, with the absence of Tyler Bozak, with them having 11 forwards, Ryan O'Reilly is a guy that sort of needs to set the tone tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning and establish the Blues style of play that we know and love, because it's gonna be a test for sure. Greg Kane says in chat, is sending neighbors to junior starting to come back and bite us in the butt a little bit? It's interesting because I think, any season, there are going to be injuries, there's going to be, especially this year with COVID, there's going to be guys going down with COVID protocol. So even when they sent Neighbors down, I think, that was with the knowledge that there's going to be times when they need a 12 forward. They're going to have to call up, like a guy like Logan Brown. Obviously, right now, would it be nice to have Neighbors being able to slot in as that extra forward spot? Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is, when this team is fully healthy, Jake Neighbors would have sort of been that extra guy, would have found himself up in the press box a little bit more often. So for the long-term future of, Jake Neighbors and his production, it is probably for the best that he got sent down to juniors, just because, getting first-line ice time, captain of his team, it's the best for his development. Obviously, short-term, right now, tonight, it would be great to have Jake Neighbors in the lineup. But the long-term outlook, is that, when this team has a fully healthy roster, it just wouldn't have made sense to try to fit Jake Neighbors in. It would have made things a little awkward. It would have had guys getting out of the lineup that probably deserve to play. And cap space as well, as JTAP mentions, it was more of a financial move for the St. Louis Blues, being able to just meet the minimums of the roster requirements. But right now, it's definitely coming to bite them in the butt a little bit. It's a little frustrating the way that the league has it set up, where the Blues are pretty much just handcuffed into playing with 11 healthy forwards tonight because of COVID protocols. And the worry here is that the Bozak COVID protocol is like the first domino to fall, and we could be seeing other guys enter it over the next few days, like we've seen with some other teams, like the Islanders have had games postponed because of it. So it's always a big worry when you see that. Hopefully, it's an isolated incident and it's just Bozak. But definitely a challenge for the Blues right now. Depleted roster, and overall just not what you want to see going up against the defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. But that being said, I do think the Blues have a good shot to establish their game tonight and come away with a win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. How they're going to do that, I'm going to be getting into in the second segment of today's episode. But first, I want to tell you guys about a brand new sponsor, and that is Omaha Steaks. I'm being fully truthful when I say there is nothing I love more than a good steak. It is absolutely delicious. My favorite thing to make. It's like the only food I know how to cook in my college apartment. I just, grill up a steak. Is delicious. But it's a little difficult. I got a Target right downstairs, and that's not the best place to get steaks. But one thing I love doing is ordering a nice steak from Omaha Steaks. The holidays are right around the corner, and finding the perfect gift is tricky. Omaha Steaks makes it easy to send friends and family an unforgettable gift, guaranteed to be loved. Go to omahasteaks.com and enter NHL in the search bar to order. The perfect gift package is $99.99. You'll get 24 entrees, including the world-famous bacon-wrapped filet mignon, chicken breast, sides, desserts, and so much more when you use code NHL. That's such a good deal. You're getting so many meals for a cheap price. Plus, when you order using our code NHL, you'll get an additional 8 Omaha Steak burgers free with your order. We've heard all the reports about shortages and shipping delays, so don't wait. Order the perfect gift package today at omahasteaks.com, and you'll get 8 free burgers when entering the code NHL. Achieve gifting greatness with Omaha Steaks. Incredible flavor, incredible value, and 100% guaranteed. omahasteaks.com, keyword NHL. And if St. Louis is the number one demographic in ordering Omaha Steaks, there's a big competition between all Locked On podcasts. If you guys order the most steaks, then Tommy and I get some free steaks from Omaha Steaks. So please go out there, check them out. They're absolutely delicious. And we'll be right back with the rest of today's episode. All right, so Blues have a depleted roster, playing against the Tampa Bay Lightning in a home-and-home 2 games in a row, and then going to play the Florida Panthers as well. Really, really difficult 4-game stretch for the St. Louis Blues, probably the toughest stretch of the season for them so far, and all that coming with a depleted roster, guys going down to COVID and injuries. The Blues literally are not capable of fielding 12 forwards right now because they just simply don't have enough guys healthy. It's really a bit of a mess for the Blues right now. They're working with what they've got, and we've sort of seen both ends of the spectrum. We saw when David Perron went down and the Blues just could not produce any offense whatsoever. And then in the next game, they came in with 10 forwards, and I was admittedly very worried. I was like, oh my God, 10 forwards. It was so awful in that first game when we really, about to run this again. Robert Bortuzzo was playing on the left wing, and it was just, ugh. And then they came out and they did well. They had a lot of offense generated. The 10 forwards did a really good job, but the worry there is fatigue. You can't be running 10, 11 forwards this many games in a row and just expect these guys to be able to keep up the same momentum and keep up the same effort, for 60 minutes a night. It's difficult when instead of getting, 30 seconds or, a minute and a half between shifts, you're hopping over the boards right after you got out. It's a big test for the Blues forwards, and the Blues forwards have been, the strongest point of this team. But now all of a sudden you're getting all the lines mixed up a little bit. You got guys playing in different spots. And Shen up there on the first line, still dealing with an injury, not completely healthy. And then Dakota Joshua and Logan Brown, who guys that haven't gotten a whole lot of ice time this year. I think Logan Brown called up from the AHL recently. So it's going to be a test. And what better team to test themselves again than the two-time Stanley Cup or back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning? It's going to be difficult, but that being said, I think that there's a way that the Blues can come out with a win tonight, especially considering they're facing an old friend in Brian Elliott, catching a little bit of a break, not going against Vasilevsky in night one. And I wonder if that's because the forward core is so depleted for the St. Louis Blues. Even with Braden Shen coming back, he's not fully healthy. So they got 10 healthy forwards on the roster right now, and Braden Shen is pretty much being forced to suit up because they don't really have a choice. So JTap says in chat, you literally took the words out of my mouth. Having these games could be the best or the worst thing for this team. I think you're absolutely right. This 4-game stretch is going to be huge for momentum for the rest of the season. It would be really, really easy for the Blues to go into these games sort of down on their luck, saying, man, we got a whole lot of injuries, a whole lot of COVID difficulties. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning, and sort of have a little lack of confidence in themselves. That would be understandable, given the circumstances, and it would be very easy for them to sort of go on a little bit of a skid. And all of a sudden the outlook on the rest of the season is, man, the Blues just couldn't catch breaks early on, and that really, derailed the season. That could absolutely be the narrative, is this 4-game stretch could definitely lead to a struggle for the rest of the season if the Blues sort of let it weigh on them. That being said, if the Blues come out and perform in these next 4 games with a depleted forward core, with 11 forwards, calling up guys from the AHL, Ryan O'Reilly still fatigued from COVID or whatever it may be, if they come out and not even win all 4, but just compete in all 4 games, that's got to be a huge confidence boost because this team will be fully healthy again. It doesn't sound like David Perron's injury is super long-term. He's back at the rink. He's skating. It just sort of seems like Berube wants him to take it day by day. Said like the only one that knows how he's feeling is David himself. So it sounds like they're sort of trusting him to make the right decision in terms of coming back. So that being said, I don't think expectations are too high on the Blues over this stretch, which is good for them. I think there's been a lot of pressure on them this season, especially with their distance, and they can sort of go into these 4 games and look, the underdogs, regardless of whether we have a fully healthy roster, the Blues would be the underdog tonight. And especially the depleted forward core and Marco Scandella, kind of getting forced to be back in the lineup after we talked about the healthy scratch potentially happening with Bozak going down. Now Scandella has to come back in the lineup. There's a lot of narratives going in tonight that sort of give the Blues an opportunity to bet on themselves. There's a lot of people looking at this game tonight and saying, there's no way the Blues are going to compete. There's no way with Bozak going down, Braden Shen not fully healthy. It'd be pretty easy to look at, tonight's game and be like, man, they're just going to lose. They're going to lose at Tampa. But that being said, Blues come out firing on all cylinders and compete and look like they can hang with the Tampa Bay Lightning with this depleted of a roster, then who knows what the confidence will look like once this team gets back up to full speed. We've been seeing a lot of confidence lately. I think that's something that we've been saying a lot on this podcast, and it's something that the Blues have been playing with a lot of. It's confidence. Jordan Kyrou looks the most confident he has in his entire career. Robert Thomas also looks the most confident he has in his entire career. Throwing crazy, ridiculous, no-look passes, tape to tape. Jordan Kyrou looking like the fastest guy the Blues have had in years, maybe ever, out there. So it's not all hope is lost. I think tonight is a really good opportunity for the Blues to sort of step up and prove that they belong in the top tier contenders of this league, because we haven't seen a consistent Blues team since the start of the season over those first 5 games, and we still haven't really seen it. I don't think they've won back-to-back games in like weeks. And imagine if they go out and win back-to-back games against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tap says in chat, just like the Edmonton and Carolina games, we don't even have to win. We just have to play well. I absolutely agree. I think my expectations for the Blues over this next stretch are very low. in terms of wins and losses. Obviously, I want them to compete. I want them to look good. But if you look at these next 4 games and you say, okay, Blues are running 11 forwards and only 10 of them are healthy, and one of them has been in the AHL all year, and the other one, doesn't get a whole lot of ice time. Blues have every excuse to lose tonight, and the next time they play, if the roster continues to look like that. That being said, coming out with a win would be absolutely huge. The momentum that it would give this team, the confidence that it would give them, and also just sort of knowing that this team is able to sort of survive what hopefully will be the toughest stretch of the season, not just with the opponents, but with the roster itself. You'd hope that there's not going to be another instance where the Blues literally don't have enough forwards for the rest of the season. You hope that this will be the only time. And if the Blues are sort of able to get through this adversity, then, in 2 months when they're looking at some hard times, they can look back and say, hey, remember that time we played Tampa and Florida 4 straight games with not enough healthy forwards and we still came out on top? We still did well. It could be a huge momentum point for the St. Louis Blues if they're able to hang with both of these teams over the next 4 games. I'm excited. I'm sort of anxiously excited. I think we're going to be getting a real look at like the true Blues this season. It's gonna be tough, but it's gonna be fun. And I do have some mailbag questions that I asked about on Twitter, so I'm getting into those. But before we do that, I want to talk about our good friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered for all season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues to march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus from basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts, and I'll be right back. All right. So earlier today on Twitter from the Locked On Blues account, follow us there. Should be doing this more in the future. I did tweet out some mailbag questions. We got 3 questions to go through. Want to sort of tie them into the narrative in terms of facing the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tommy asked, my favorite co-host, should be editing this episode right now. Hi, Tommy. Thoughts on Bozak entering COVID protocol. I talked about that earlier in the episode, but talking about Bozak himself for a little bit, I think he's been a very underrated player this season. He's super reliable. You know what you're getting out of him any given night. You don't really have to worry about him committing egregious turnovers or missing his man and allowing an easy goal or anything like that. Bozak is super reliable, super important for this team, and losing him just means someone else needs to fill that role. And I think I mentioned earlier, Ryan O'Reilly could definitely use this as an opportunity to step up and reestablish himself as the number one center for this team. But that being said as well, that also means more ice time for the young guys, more ice time for Robert Thomas, more ice time for Jordan Kyrou, etc. So I think a lot of people or a lot of players can use this as an opportunity to sort of step up, take that next step, next man up mentality, something that we say all the time. If the Blues are able to sort of take that responsibility and have, Bozak's role dispersed amongst a couple of guys, because there's not one guy on this team that's going to do what Tyler Bozak can do for them. But, if Oscar Sundqvist steps up a little bit, Ryan O'Reilly steps up a little bit, Ivan Barbashev steps up a little bit, the list goes on and on, then it could be an opportunity for the Blues to, build some momentum. Next question we got is, let's see, DAKT Mac card fans, Dak T Mac fan cards. There you go. Asked, do you think the upcoming Olympics is affecting Binner's play? He has a very nice shot coming into the season to be Canada's number one between the pipes, with price availability being in doubt. Yeah, so I talked about Jordan Bennington a lot, and like the whole Olympics thing we've talked about a lot. But sort of tying this into tonight's game, I think Jordan Bennington has been really, really strong this season. Very consistent. There haven't really been games where Jordan Bennington has let in some beach ball goals. You're looking like, man, what's he doing out there? I feel like he's been very consistent. Hasn't necessarily been like spectacular. Hasn't stolen a whole lot of games for the St. Louis Blues. But if there's a time for him to start stealing games, it's tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think he is definitely absolutely making a case to be the number one goalie for Team Canada. Doug Armstrong being the GM as well has got to help there. But But he loves to welcome the challenge, and I think looking up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, one of the most high-powered offenses in the NHL, he's probably going to be facing a little bit more shots than he's used to, just with the lineup being a little broken and tattered. I think he's going to rise to the occasion tonight, and I think he's going to have a really, really strong game. Third question we got comes from Johnny John from the UK. Oh, hey, cheerio. Extending the previous episode, Pavel be the Vladdy whisperer. Yeah, I think Pavel Buchnevich has done a very good job of motivating Vladimir Tarasenko. I think they've had a lot of chemistry together. We know that Russian connection is super important, and Pavel Buchnevich has done a great job of just driving offense in general and creating a lot of scoring chances for Vladimir Tarasenko. His shot total since playing with Pavel Buchnevich is ridiculous. There was that stretch of games where he was having like 5, 6, 7, 8 shots in like 3 straight games. The goal scoring slowed down a little bit for him, but I haven't seen Vladimir Tarasenko this engaged in a very long time. We've sort of seen it in the past. If Tarasenko isn't getting the goals and getting the points, he's a little bit disengaged. He's not fighting as hard for pucks. He gets a little frustrated with himself. But it seems like ever since he's been playing with Buchnevich, no matter how well his statistics are producing, he is fully engaged, fully committed, and just working his butt off. So yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it. I think Pavel Buchnevich has been the Tarasenko whisperer this season. He's done a very, very good job of just motivating all his teammates in general. That's something we talked about in a previous episode last week, is just that his play style is infectious. When you see someone like Pavel Buchnevich go out there and just work his tail off, even if it's, first shift of the game, when he loves to score, I think he got 2 goals in like the first minute of the game in back-to-back games, or a goal in the first minute each game, I should say. It's the third period and they're down by 5. You get the same effort out of Pavel Buchnevich every single time he's on the ice, and that's infectious. If you're sitting on the bench a little discouraged, saying, "Man, we're down a lot of goals," like maybe I'll coast on the next shift. And then you see Pavel Buchnevich, coming to the bench, sucking wind, working so hard. Berube tapping on the helmet, saying, "Good job." You're like, "Oh man, okay, maybe I should work a little bit harder. Maybe I should skate a little bit harder for that loose puck." It's infectious. It's something that has been huge for the St. Louis Blues this season, and we have not given him the proper credit he deserves on this podcast for sure. JTep says in chat, I might have to make a Twitter to send you a question about my Husso trade conspiracy theory. Oh, that sounds tempting. I don't know if we have enough time for conspiracy theories on this episode, but you should make a Twitter. Send that in. That'll be a good topic for next episode. Or if you want, you can just type it in chat or something. Message us on YouTube, because that does sound interesting. That being said, 20 minutes of this episode have absolutely flown by. So these solos are kind of always all over the place, complete tangent of thought from start to finish. But I'm going to try to sum up everything that I've been talking about on today's episode by basically saying I think the low expectations for the St. Louis Blues heading into these 4 games are going to be a good thing for them. I think there's been a lot of pressure on them this season, especially after the hot start. I think that might be what's led to the inconsistency. When the Blues were losing, it's not like they weren't generating offense, except for, a couple games here and there. When the Blues have been losing, they've been generating offense and missing the net, hitting the post, making one too many passes, stuff like that, thinking too much. I think when the Blues play their best hockey, they're not overthinking it. They're making their first read, they're making the first pass that they see, and 99% of the time, your first pass that you see is the correct one. The NHL moves at such a fast pace that by the time you've sort of rethought your decision and went back on your gut, you've already lost the puck. You've already turned the puck over. And I think it'll be pretty easy, for the Blues to think too much. You start in 5-0, best start in franchise history, 7 goals a game. That's a whole lot of pressure. And we haven't really seen the Blues return to that form consistently since then. We've seen it in flashes. We've seen it in games, but then they come out the next game and it's gone. Blues haven't won back-to-back games in a very long time this season. Luckily, with that hot start, they're still in a good place standings-wise, but I'd like to see them get back to that consistency. And as much as it sort of sounds a little backwards, I think 4 games against, two of the toughest teams in the league are a perfect way to build that consistency back, because the Blues obviously aren't going to go out there and play 60 minutes of perfect hockey tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's just not how it happens. You don't go from puck drop to final buzzer playing perfect hockey. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to give up goals. They're going to give up odd man rushes. It's about, staying consistent and staying confident. If they stay in this game tonight, even if they lose, if they stay in this game and we see a consistent effort from puck drop to final buzzer, I think that's a good start. It's about moving forward. from this game. They won their last game, and they lost the game before that. So, they still haven't really found a consistent stretch. They haven't been losing a ton of games in a row except for that one stretch, and then they haven't been winning a whole lot of games in a row except for that one stretch. So overall, it's like they still have an opportunity to establish their identity. They still kind of have time to tell the rest of the league what kind of team they're going to be. And if there's one way to put the league on notice, it's by competing with the Tampa Bay Lightning and Florida Panthers in 4 consecutive games, especially with the depleted roster. So huge test for the Blues tonight, huge test for the Blues in 2 nights against the Tampa Bay Lightning again. And then after that, they got the Panthers. It's going to be a really, really important 4-game stretch. I think the identity of the St. Louis Blues has been the biggest question mark is what are they, night in, night out, what is this team going to be? We thought we know it at times, but haven't really seen it with consistency since, like I said, the beginning of the season or that one losing stretch. That's all we've really seen in terms of them bringing the same game, the same effort into multiple games. So perfect opportunity to establish that identity tonight and moving forward. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited, and we're going to have that all covered for you here on the Locked On Blues podcast. So I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Thanks to everybody who was in the YouTube chat, JTap, Emily, and Greg Kane, and anyone else. Love talking to you guys. Makes these episodes fly by, getting the chat engagement. If you guys want to join them and hop into the next episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Locked On Blues, hit the notification bell. That way, whenever we go live with these episodes, you can hop in the chat and be like Greg and JTap and Emily, ask us some questions, get your question read live on the podcast, and just watch us. Have a good time. But if you want to listen to us afterwards, you got to hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Leave us a review if you're feeling so kind. You can follow us on all our socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Locked On Blues. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL. Follow Tommy at TWelcher15. Thanks everyone so much for listening, and as always, let's go.